Welcome back to my channel. You already know it's your boy Hood Diggity, the Rock Reactor, back with another video. Yes, sir. Before I proceed, let me know where you tapping in from. Let me know what country, what city, what mountain, what hill, what cave, what island, what planet, what universe. Let me know where you at. Represent your hood, guys. Do you guys think that Trump is biting off more than he can chew? Or do you think that Trump is putting too much on his plate when it comes to being involved in the Ukrainian-Russia war? Now he's involved in this Hamas, Israel, the Gaza stuff, and I believe that as far as Gaza, I think right now he just put a Band-Aid. But I think this is not going to end this war, man. This is a war, like he said, this war's been going on dating back 3,000 years back. So I don't think that Trump, his intentions are incredible. His intentions are amazing. Even the opposition is commending him on this. But I think if Trump really want to do something here, obviously, as based on what we're seeing, he's going to have to get his hands dirty. He really going to have to get his hands dirty. He going to have to put in the work. If you want to put maybe a Band-Aid, but because it's all a Band-Aid, this is going to be back. This war is just, I give it a couple of years, and they're at it again. Not even a couple of years, maybe a year. And that's after Trump get his hands dirty. Because right now, it's like the same shit is going on. It's a ceasefire, but people still dying over there. Hamas is still doing their thing. But anyway, guys, let's check this out. They still publicly executing Gaza civilians amid Israel ceasefire. Let's get right to it, guys. And before we do, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell, hit the like button. Any donations to my channel will be greatly appreciated. My PayPal account is on the description. Let's get it.
Let's take you out to this live look right here. This is over Khan Yunis there in Gaza. As you can see, they are doing some work to clean up some of the rubble as the war has winded down, at least for now. Now, President Trump has also issued a strong warning to the Hamas terror group: stop the killing or be killed. That is, as the Gaza residents have said that many of them, several folks, have been executed there publicly by Hamas in Gaza over the days since that ceasefire took effect. Now, we also know that there are reports that Hamas has refused to disarm. So that's part of the deal here, is that they would throw out their arms. They would be done here, but that does not appear to be the case. I do want to bring in Jonathan Schanzer. He is the executive director at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Thank you so much, as always, for taking the time to join us here.
My pleasure.
All right, so Hamas has said, essentially, according to reports there, they are not going to lay down their weapons and say, we're disarmed, that's it. We're not going to leave Gaza. Your thoughts overall, is that a non-negotiable for Israel?
It is a non-negotiable, but it's also a non-negotiable for Hamas, and I think we knew that going into this. The Israelis want Hamas defeated. Hamas wants to survive, and that is their metric for victory at the end of this 2-year war. They want to be able to show the world that they were able to fight Israel for 2 years and emerge not quite unscathed, because they are truly defeated in a military sense, but their mere survival is their metric for success. And so now this is a test of wills, Josh. They are going to try to defy the president of the United States. They're going to try to defy Israel, which is the strongest military power in the region. The question in my mind right now is whether the Arab world leans on them the way they should. But I think more importantly, whether the Europeans and all these other countries that were calling for a ceasefire, calling for an end of the war, Trump has negotiated the best terms that one could possibly imagine for an end of the war. And now Hamas is refusing to lay down its arms. In fact, if anything, we're seeing them get more aggressive.
Why did they call it the end of the war then? They should have just called it basically a ceasefire.
Many of their own
They should have just called it a ceasefire. They shouldn't have called it the end of the war because this war hasn't ended. We all know that.
In the Gaza Strip, they're still holding 18 slain hostages and refusing to hand them over in an orderly fashion. So this is a standoff, and we're waiting to see how Donald Trump and how Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, how both of these men respond.
And we talked a little bit about the public executions you just mentioned, and I talked about it kind of leading in. But what do we know about that situation overall? Because as we mentioned, days ago, they started these public execution of the Gaza civilians there in Gaza.
Yeah, so I mean, look, Hamas has been around since 1988. Okay, this is an organization that slowly but surely took over the Gaza Strip, and they did so with brutality. In 1988, it was the first intifada, as they called it, and they were killing what they called collaborators. Now, after that, then we saw the second intifada break out, and that was additional killing of Palestinians who were deemed to be collaborators. Then there was the civil war that broke out between the PLO and Hamas in 2006 and 2007. And guess what? Hamas started killing Palestinians again. Anyone that would oppose Hamas, they opposed them, not just politically, began killing them on the streets. This has been a theme, right? Every time that Hamas and Israel have gone to war, 2008, 2012, 2014, 2021, in each case, after the war, they began killing people on the streets suspected of working with Israel or providing assistance to Israel. They're doing it again now, but really what they're trying to do, I think, more broadly, is not just kill their opponents, but to demonstrate that they're still this brutal terrorist organization that is going to run Gaza at the point of a gun. The question, to my mind right now, is whether there is anyone that is willing to stand up to Hamas as this process plays out in Gaza.
This ceasefire, no question, is very fragile.
What is sad is that this is basically a hostage situation because they're basically holding everybody in that area. They're basically holding everybody hostage because they know if Israel or even Trump starts bombing them, a lot of innocent people are going to die.
This point, do you see this as the potential end to the war, or are what we're seeing here, the issues that we're seeing with Hamas and those public executions and them really not returning the bodies of all of the hostages? As you mentioned, 18 of the 28 not returned at this point. Is this really kind of headed toward the end of the war, or is that not the way it's appearing?
No.
Look, this is the crossroads where we sit right now. This thing could go well or it could go horribly. And, I think there's a lot of presidential investment here. There's a lot of world attention. What we want to see is Hamas lay down its arms, return those hostages, and allow for the rebuilding of Gaza in an orderly fashion with a new government. That's the best case scenario. Worst case scenario is they don't return the hostages. They continue to murder people on the streets. They reassert control of the Gaza Strip. Now, that's sort of the binary, right? There's one other path that I'm watching that I think we need to keep an eye on, and that is that there could be some kind of a civil conflict, internecine war that breaks out in the Gaza Strip because pockets of control, right, vary from different parts of Gaza, from one to the next. Khan Yunis, Rafah, Jabalia, Gaza City. Different parts of Gaza City are controlled by different factions. Some related to Hamas, some maybe related to the Islamic Jihad, some related to the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, some controlled by clans or families or tribes that are trying to wrest control of their areas from Hamas or other armed groups. There's a lot of chaos. This is what happens as war drags on. It's hard to know who controls what. There is that third option, but I got to tell you, we need to be pushing towards the Trump option, the process that he put in place that should lead to the disarming of Hamas and the rebuilding of Gaza. That is the goal. And again, I think we need to see more diplomatic pressure from other actors, not just Israel, not just the United States, the Arabs, the Europeans, folks out in Central Asia, Africa, East Asia, they ought to be weighing in. They ought to be making it. This, by the way, should have happened on October 8th of 2023. They all should have said, Hamas, there is no room for you in the Middle East any longer. But certainly after 2 years of war, it's time to have their voices heard. I'm just not seeing it right now. That concerns me. And that's what could lead us down the path of either chaos or more Hamas rule. Neither one of those is a good option.
When we talk about the 18 hostages, their bodies that have not been returned at this point, we know that it was part of the deal that they be returned. And President Trump did mention that on Truth Social the day that essentially Hamas didn't return them all as the ceasefire went into effect. Is it possible, does it appear to be the case that they really do not know where those remains are?
It's unlikely, but possible. I mean, let me just say this, that the Hamas hostages or the Israeli hostages, rather, in Hamas hands, that's their most valued asset. They have nothing more valuable than that because that is their leverage with Israel and the international community. So it's possible that there are hostages below the rubble that they can't get to. It's possible that there are a handful that maybe people lost the sort of chain of custody as top Hamas commanders were killed and people lost the sense of where these people were being held. But the vast majority of them, I don't think that 18 of these slain hostages are have been lost. I think it's possible that maybe 2 or 3 that they don't know the whereabouts, or it's going to be hard to find them underneath the rubble. But I am not buying it from Hamas right now that they just don't know. I think they're buying for time. They're trying to strengthen their own hand, trying to figure out whether they're going to be able to get away with slow rolling everybody, with delaying all of this. I think that's
the key word, slow rolling.
What they're trying to do, because it's in their interest, Josh. You got to remember, again, this is a terrorist organization. It's been around since 1988. No one within this organization, thinned out as it is, defeated as it is, nobody wants to just lay down their arms and say, okay, well, it's been real, guys. We're really happy here. We've had a good run. Now we're just going to pull ourselves apart, drop our weapons, and go quietly into the night. That does not sound like a brutal terrorist organization.
That's not going to happen.
I mean, that sounds like, a company in America that's gone bankrupt, and they know what the rules are, and they just need to, okay, guys, we understand the rules. That's not what's going to happen here as long as Hamas has a say. They're going to try to remain in power. They're going to try to remain armed, and they're going to try to keep fighting because that's their ideology. So, again, we need to see more pressure, whether it's military, political, diplomatic. We need to see the world start to squeeze Hamas, not just Israel with bombs, not just Donald Trump with words. There needs to be a groundswell of support for the end of the war. It needs to be supported worldwide.
My last question for you, you touched on this off the top, but how has Hamas changed over the past 2 years since October 7th of 2023 there? How have they changed? It appears that their leaders are all gone overall. So how have we seen that shift happen?
Yeah, I mean, they've been absolutely eviscerated. I don't think there's any other word for it. All of the top leaders in Gaza are gone, okay? Almost all of the top commanders are gone. There were something like 35,000 fighters when this war started, many of them highly trained in places like Iran and Turkey. Most of them are gone too. There's somewhere between 2,000 and 7,000 fighters left, most of whom have been recently recruited, young men in tracksuits that probably had never even picked up an RPG or a Kalashnikov before the war began. So they're not trained. They're not ready to fight long term. And they're certainly not going to win against the most sophisticated army in the Middle East. So this is an organization that is destroyed internally. There are political figures abroad in places like Qatar and Turkey and Iran. These are all countries that should not be hosting Hamas. Let's just be clear about this. But they are still there. But even there, I got to say, there's maybe about 8 or 10 figures that I can still recognize. And I've been studying this group since the 1990s. It is not what it was. It is a shadow of itself. It is not able to win in the traditional sense. They don't have rockets anymore. They don't have the ability to breach the fence and to attack Israel. They are defeated. They are just not willing to admit defeat because they believe, as I said, that just their continued existence is evidence of victory, at least for them and their adherents. That's their strategy now. We need to disabuse them that this is a strategy that is viable. And again,
Guys, but that's a strategy. That's a dangerous strategy because they're willing to go out all the way. That means they don't care. That means they're going to let Trump go in. They're going to let Israel go in, and they're going to just go back to the same war that continue what was happening before they said it ended the war. They're going to continue. A lot of people going to die. A lot of people going to die in Gaza. And that's a dangerous situation because to disarm them, Trump said he's going to disarm them or be killed. But to kill them, you're going to have to kill a lot of people, a lot of innocent people, because they're going to be surrounded by innocent people. That's their strategy. So they want to continue. Basically, they want to continue this war. And basically, they just played out Trump. Whatever negotiation was done was just to buy time.
All of that tracks back to Israel, the United States, of course, but the Arab world and the rest of the international community that has been calling for a ceasefire. They've been blaming Israel for years. I mean, for 2 years now, they've been blaming Israel for the continuation of the war. Israel has stopped fighting, right? The United States has come in. They've brokered this. The United States has leveraged all of the political will that it was able to accumulate. They're leaning on Israel to not fight. Now, who's going to lean on Hamas to get them to wave the white flag? They made a huge mistake. It led to their evisceration. It led to their defeat. They cannot hang on any longer if Gaza is ever to be on a different path. And I think that's the crossroads where we sit right now.
All right, Jonathan Schanzer, as always, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here. Anything else that you want to add? Anything we missed here before I let you go?
Look, I'll just note that the ceasefire now crowd in the United States, in Europe, around the world, online, pretty quiet right now as Hamas kills women and children in the streets, as they kill innocent Palestinians who are just looking for a different future. I think that this hypocrisy is just glaring right now. I'm not here for social commentary, but I have to say that as long as they are out there silent, while this murdering goes on in Gaza, we're not going to see that change. Again, it's that political shift that is needed right now in order for Hamas to understand that its days are numbered, that its run is over, and that we need to have a different future. That's the hope here right now. And I'm waiting for that shift. I'm not holding my breath, but that is what's needed here to get Gaza to a different place and to potentially start to imagine a different future.
All right. Jonathan Schanzer at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. As always, thank you so much for taking the time to join us and discussing all of this further. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.
That was crazy. Guys, it's crazy because you damn if you do, you damn if you don't. The people of Gaza, they're damned anyway, because if the Israelis come back and they start bombing to try to kill Hamas, they still gonna be bombing innocent people. So in the meantime, it's ceasefire, but they still killing the people there. It's a sad situation, guys. Guys, all I could say is I will pray for the innocent people of Gaza. And may God rain a miracle over them. It's all I could say because it's a serious situation. All I'm saying is that this is not to be treated lightly. Trump should not treat this lightly. Trump is going to have to get his hands dirty if he really want to get something done with Hamas and Gaza. Guys, you already know, man. Let me know what you think. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know what's going on. Should Trump go in? Trump needs to get his hands dirty. Should Israelis go back? And I agree with what the gentleman said, that other nations should get involved. Totally agree with that. Guys, subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell, hit the like button. Any donations to my channel will be greatly appreciated. My PayPal account is on in the description. Peace, love, and God bless.